Hi guys, I gave an interview in a company called NIC and the interview date was the 31st Jan 2023. So, first question they asked me which payment gateway I used. So, I told them whatever I did in my last company. Then they asked me normalization in database. So I said normalization refers to organizing a database column, rows, and tables to minimize data redundancy. Uh, and then I said I am most familiar with the first three normalization form. The first is about eliminating repetitive group. Second is for eliminating redundant data. And the third normalization form is about eliminating the columns that don't depend on a key. Some other I know of are the voice code, optimal, and domain key forms. Then they asked me joins in SQL. So I said SQL joins are used to combine rows from two or more tables based on a related column between them. So then they asked me types of joins. So I said the inner join returns only the rows where there is a match in both tables. In left join returns all rows from the left table and matched rows from the right table. If there is no match, null values are returned for columns from the right table. Then a right join or right outer join returns all rows from the right table and the matched row from the left table. If there is no match, null values are returned for column from the left table. Then full join or full outer join returns all rows from the both tables. If there is no match, null value are returned for columns from the table that doesn't have a match. Then they ask me default join. So if you simply use the keyword join without specifying a type, SQL assume it as an inner join. So default join is inner join. So they asked me another question, why would you use a full outer join? So I said, and full outer join is a method of combining tables so that the result includes unmatched rows from both tables. If you are joining two tables and want the result set to include unmatched rows from the both table, use a full outer join clause. Then they asked me stored procedure. So a store procedure is a prepared SQL code that you can save. So the code can be reused over and over again. So if you have an SQL query that you are write over and over again, save it as a stored procedure and then just call it to execute it. Then they asked me functions in SQL. So I said the string functions are there like the concat, length, upper, lower, substring, trim, replace, etc. Numeric function, ABS, seal, floor, round, SQRT, POW, MOD, etc. Date and time functions, now, cur date, cur time, date add, date sub, date diff here. Aggregate group functions like count, sum, average, max, min. Control flow function, if, case, null if, and call esc, etc. JSON function, JSON object, JSON array, JSON extract. Other useful functions like WID, versions, and user. Okay, so these are the functions in SQL. So the key takeaways is used Use stored procedure when you need to perform complex operation and modify the database. Use function when you need to return a single data inside a query. So this is the difference between stored procedure and functions. Then they asked me how many years of experience you have, which technology you have used, website you worked on, your role, which part of the website you worked on, etc. Okay. Then they asked me views in database. So in SQL, a view is a virtual table based on the result set of an SQL statement. A view contains rows and columns just like a real table. The fields in a view are filled from one or more real table in the database. So key points: virtual table. A view doesn't store data itself. It stores the SQL query that generates the data. Based on a query, it's created using select statement that pulls data from one or more tables. No data storage. A view doesn't store data. It shows a dynamic result set based on the underlying tables. Why use views? So simplify complex queries. If you can store complex join and query as a views and then access them like simple tables. Improve security by restricting access to certain columns or tables. You can create views that only show the necessary data. Data abstraction. View provides an abstraction layer, meaning the underlying table structure can change without affecting how user interact with the data. So in SQL, views are typically read-only, but in a certain case, you can update a view. However, there are limitations depending on the complexity of the views and the database you are using. When can you update a view? You can update a view if the view is based on a single table. The view does not include any aggregation like the group by or joins, listings, subqueries in the select statement. All the columns of the views are updatable, meaning the underlying table allow modifications through the views. When can't you update a view? You cannot update a view if it involves multiple tables like joins. It uses aggregate function like sum count. It includes distinct group by or complex subquery. The view is based on a computed or derived from like the concat or case expressions. So you can't use update in update a view. So the bottom line is yes, you can update view if they are simple, single table, no join or no aggregation. For more complex view, join subquery aggregator, you cannot directly update them. Then they asked me the binary tree. So a binary tree is a structure where each node has at most two children, a left and a right child. What are type of binary trees? So full tree, every node has 0 or 2 children. Complete tree, that is the second tree, all level filled except last which is filled left to right. Perfect tree, third one, all internal nodes have 2 children and all leaves are at the same level. Fourth one is the BST, that is a binary search tree, left, then root, then right. Balanced tree, height difference between left and right is at most 1. What is in order, pre-order, post-order? So in order left, root, right, pre-order, root, left, right, post-order, left, right, root. So real use of binary tree, use in the searching, sorting, expression tree and memory storage like heaps. So then they asked me another question is the hashing techniques. So hashing is a technique to convert a key into an index using a hash function to store and retrieve data quickly. So why do we use hashing? It gives fast access to data, usually O1 time for insert, delete and search. What is collision? When two keys get the same hash index, it's called a collision. How to handle collision? That means the hashing techniques. So first is a chaining. Store multiple element at the same index using a linked list. Okay. Open addressing, find another empty slot in array. Then quadratic probing, if a collision occur, check slot at interval of 1 to the power 2 index, 1 to the power 2 index plus 2 to the power 2, etc. Use case, avoid clustering like in linear probing. Another technique is the double hashing. So concept is use a second hash function to determine the step size of probing. Then they asked me the SQL injection. So SQL injection is a code injection technique that might destroy your database. SQL injection is the placement of malicious code in SQL statement via web page input like student ID, and the student enter the following in the input field 1 2 2 3 4 5 or 1 equal to 1. So this basically translates to select star from student, where student ID equal to 1 equal to 1 2 2 3 4 5 or 1 equal to 1. Now this is 1 equal to 1 will return all the record for which this hold true. So basically all the student data is compromised. Now the malicious user can also delete the student records in a similar fashion. They asked me the ACID property. So first is the atomicity, all or nothing. So definition, a transaction is treated as a single unit, meaning either all of its operation are executed or none are. For example, if a transaction involves transferring money from one account to another, both the debit from one account and credit to the other must succeed. If one fails, the entire transaction is rolled back, ensuring no partial update. Second is the consistency, that is the valid state. Definition, a transaction takes the database from one valid state to another valid state. It ensures that the rules and constraints of the database, such as foreign key checks, are always maintained. Example, if a rule says that the balance in an account cannot be negative, a transaction that tries to withdraw from money, then the available balance will fail, keeping the data consistent. Third is the isolation, independent execution. So definition, transactions are executed in isolation, meaning that the operations of the transaction are not visible to other until the transaction is complete. This ensure that transactions do not interfere with each other. Example, if two users try to transfer money from same account simultaneously, isolation ensures that the final result is correct, and if they were proceed one after the other, even if they were proceed at the same time. Fourth is the durability, that is the permanent definition. Once a transaction is committed, its changes are permanent. Even in the case of system crash or failure, the database ensures that the changes are returned to the non-volatile storage like a disk. Example, if a transaction to transfer money is committed and the system crashed afterward, the transaction's effort money transferred will still be preserved when the system recovers. So the bottom line is atomicity, everything happens or nothing happens. Consistency, data moves from one valid state to another. Third, isolation, transactions don't affect each other's operations. Fourth, durability, once a transaction is complete, its changes are permanent. So these are the questions asked by the NIC, and the interview date was the 31st January 2023. I will share more interview question. Until then, bye.